Hello, everybody.
Hello,
Welcome.
everybody.
It's Thursday night here,
hmm
and we've been coming on Monday, and we've been recording these Mondays and Thursdays. We about 8:15, and but I think you can access them anytime.
Um,
Here's why.
we we've done three series. The first series
Right.
was the Psalms. The second series we used teachings from Mesilat Yesharim by Moshe Chaim Lusato, who really wrote a wonderful book about how to become a more moral person. You know, what are the steps you need to take? And came from the Talmud, a teaching from the Talmud, but he really goes into each of the steps that teach us how to become a more moral person. It's all we can do right now. It's
Mhm.
all we can do right now. We can't, there's a lot we can't change on the outside, and we'll do our best to do that, but we can work on ourselves
But we,
because the horror that's out there is just sometimes
yeah.
overwhelming. So we do our best to.
But we did it because the first one we did because it was a response to challenge. We
Mhm.
were
It
feeling really
was
challenged, really squeezed.
right,
We
and
called it the squeeze. And what do we do? Somebody said, you said,
I did.
you said, let's do what we know, let's
Read
learn
Psalms.
something.
And Psalms is, you read Psalms when you need healing to heal him. So
But it wasn't just read. It
no,
was
it
like,
wasn't. It wasn't
let's,
immerse, become part
yes,
of it,
right.
and find our
Let's do some
way
learning.
and learning together.
Yeah.
So
And
we
at
did
first,
this. Yeah,
it was an entirely natural response, really,
yeah,
to
yeah.
challenge. It was like,
Oh yeah.
it's like
Every
it
day.
hadn't occurred to us until you said, well,
Yeah.
what are we going to do? We looked at each other and said, what are we going to do? And you said, let's learn something. I said, oh, of course. It
Yeah,
was
that
like,
is
of
what we do. Of
course.
course, that's what we do.
And so we took, what are we going to take? The first series, the first was the Psalms.
Psalms.
Let's dip into the Psalms and let's use one commentary that we
Oh
particularly
yeah, we
love.
love that commentary. It was beautiful.
And we
Yes.
did that. We used um, Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch's
Mm,
commentary, and
beautiful.
and
Gave us
then
so
what
many
was the
insights.
second one was the Missy Sharim.
Right.
We said let's use that as a
Because again, it was a response to things we couldn't control. So we also turned to learning, and this time, Jim has been studying. He goes to Jerusalem a lot often, and he studies with this man named Isaac in Jerusalem and a group of students across the world, really, right?
yeah,
And they study Rav Kook, but they study a particular um, the notebooks of Rav Kook, right? Yeah.
mostly, yeah.
And every once in a while you'll share something with me, and
Shlomo
I'll
Kavatzim.
so beautiful, like angels knocking. I love
Yeah,
that. I'm
but
still think
I
about
went
that.
there today. I hadn't been in.
hmm
I took off for a while,
hmm
and with
Yeah, it's so
all that
sad
was
there.
going on here, I didn't get on, and
Right,
we were preoccupied. We all had stuff to do.
right.
So funny. I went today, and you know what happened today is the lesson today was about
What?
it. It was so interesting because he taught us about today about and I wrote it up, and this is from 1940. In 1940, Rob Cook had been dead for 5 years,
hmm
and in 1940 there was the war in Europe was pressing, so they gathered in his house.
hmm
And I learned all this today.
Wow.
They gathered in his house and
Right next to the Antigua
yeah.
house, right there in Jerusalem.
You know what else he told me? He told me that it was the first house in Jerusalem that was built with electric, built
Really?
into the walls,
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Anyway, so in 1940, a small circle of them, not many, maybe a million, got together in 1940 at his house. And you know what they did? They started learning.
Mm.
That's what they did. They got
Mm.
together to learn.
Yeah.
And it was a small circle. The study convened. It was his son, Tzvi Yehuda, And his main disciple, is called the Rav HaNazir. He was the Nazir. I think his name was David Cohen. But he's known as Rav HaNazir. And they started the Circle of Learning in 1940. And with the war's end in 1945, they put a call out to people to start these little circles like that. What was their response? The challenge?
Learning.
And they formed these
Yeah.
chugei, what do they call it? Chugei Haraya. His acronym is the Raya. These circles to spread his light and his teaching. So I wrote this piece about that because it was today.
Mm.
It's what we're doing here.
So
So here,
that.
the circles of Rav Kook, Chugei Haraya, 1940. Rav Kook has been gone for 5 years. War in Europe pressing. To build confidence and hope from this house, built in 1923, first house in Jerusalem with built-in electric. From Rav Kook's house, a small circle of study convened. Tzvi Yehuda, Rav Kook's son, and Rav HaNazir, his main student. They started a circle of learning, 1940. To his house came, listen who came to the house in this circle. Rav Herzog, Yitzchak Halevi from Dublin.
Wow.
He was the chief rabbi of Dublin.
Wow.
He became the second chief Ashkenazi rabbi of Palestine.
Wow.
And his son is Chaim, that would be the 6th president of Israel.
Wow.
And his grandson, Yitzchak, is the current president of Israel.
Right. Oh my God.
They convened a small circle of learning, 1940, the challenge of war. With war's end, 1945, a call went out to draw from Rav Kook's holy writings, his teachings, and lift up this light for everyone. Fragrance rising, kindle the lights of Rav Kook's teachings, his expansive soul longing to illumine the world. Chugei Haraya, the circles of Rav Kook.
Nice. Did they learn his stuff? Did they learn his teachings?
Yeah.
Wow.
So here's the piece that I wrote today. This is called A Great Nation of Wise and Understanding People. This is a quote from Deuteronomy 4, verses 6 through 8. A great nation of wise and understanding people. This comes from his writings, from his notebooks. To prepare the public good, the foundation of our community in chesed, gevura, mishpat, kindness, and strength, and mishpat, rule-making, flowing out from the source in holiness. Mishpatim, directional, our holy of holies. We are a small community. Our aspiration to relieve suffering, spiritual and material. Life of freedom, light of divine consciousness, wise and smart, a great nation. Wise, W-I-S-E. I'll read it again. A great nation of wise and understanding people. Deuteronomy 4, 6 through 8. To prepare the public good, the foundation of our community in chesed, gevura, mishpat, kindness, and strength,
Mm.
and mishpat, rule making,
Mm.
flowing out from the source in holiness, mishpatim, directional, our holy of holies. We are a small community. Our aspiration to relieve suffering, spiritual and material, life of freedom, light of divine consciousness, wise and smart, a great nation. From Rav Kook.
Wow. I had this conversation with our 8-year-old grandson tonight, and we were talking about progress.
Yeah.
He has these amazing light up tennis shoes that have rollerblades in them. I mean, you can skate on them and they light up and they're gold and they're shiny I mean, people were noticing his shoes. And I said, when I was a kid, we had kids. And the lady was sitting next to us said, yeah, and we were so excited when they came out in different colors. And 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 then we got into the conversation about how Papu, when he was a kid, he didn't even have a television. I mean, there was no television, there were no phones. I mean, smartphones. It was just radio, and they were too poor even to have a radio, so they would go listen to it somewhere else. But that progress, things have changed so much. And he said, well, what do you think is next? I said, well, that's a really good question. And I started to think about artificial intelligence and space travel. But then I said, well, what do you think is next? He said, well, I think it would be really nice if next people learned how to get along.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
a good thinker.
That's progress. For him at 8 years old, progress isn't a better smartphone or, a faster car or whatever, a better computer, whatever, or AI. It was people learned to get along. And then we started talking about, taking care of the earth. And he said, yeah, wouldn't that be, that's progress. And he said, and maybe even a world without war. Well, that's progress. That would be the future.
When I was a young man, when I was living on the desert in the great southwest of our country, I was living by myself on an alley, and there was another man that rented space in the same house. And I put up a basket on a pole behind the house. I would shoot baskets. And he would encounter me out there. He was English, an expatriate. And one day he stood out there in the sun with me, and he's short. He looked up at me and I said, do you have children? He said, I think about bringing children into this world. And what I've been through, I wouldn't. And I had never heard that sentiment before. It stunned me that this thoughtful person was so worried about the future that he didn't think it was, he didn't feel confident enough to bring children into the world. And it stunned me.
Yeah.
It froze me. He was serious. And Only when I grew up did I understand the sentiment, from this stranger person, this man, sensitive man,
Mhm.
living close to the ground, so to speak, took
Yeah.
things seriously, paid attention. And, our grandson lives close to the ground, he
Yeah.
pays attention.
Yeah. Very much so.
So I would say, for the future, if we raise generations of children like that, so that we handed off the world in a more secure way to people who would be better guardians than
Mm.
maybe we have been. But I understand the story now.
Hmm.
It's difficult. It's hard messages. And imagine when children grow up feeling
Yeah.
what they sense. It's not safe. It's a hard day today.
Yeah. Morning.
Where it's a hard day today. So we're glad to be here, though. We're glad to give up a little, bring some of Rav Kook's light. What I learned today was what they did. Hello,
Circles of
hello.
learning.
1940, 1945.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Talk about a
This is
challenging
what they
time.
did. They said, we got to bring this light to the world.
We got to learn together. Because in learning something new, something we haven't thought of yet, we'll
This is what they decided to do. They thought
yeah.
about it.
Mm.
What are we going to do? Well, let's do this.
Let's learn together.
Yeah.
Let's learn.
It's curious
Yeah.
that this should be today's lesson, don't you think?
Such a dark day.
Yeah.
Such a difficult day.
Curious. Anyway, thanks for being here. We appreciate your presence very much,
Be in
and
a circle of learning together.
we feel it's important. This effort. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's important.
Hmm.
It's the right thing. It's correct.
So,
It's correct.
so we'll
Okay,
keep
little babies. We'll see you on Monday.
we'll keep meeting, and we hope everybody has a Shabbat Shalom.
Monday. We'll see you Monday.